Hey everyone, it is Larry here at LC Model Shipbuilding, and for this episode we're going to be doing the I-beams on the second class library entryway. So that would be the floor of B deck, the roof of C deck. So before we start, I did run into some problems with it, my own fault, but worked through it, and the results aren't perfect, but I'm not that worried about it. I'm more worried about what the results will be on B deck and A deck. So this turned out to be a really good learning experience, and we do have it lit up, and there's kind of a preview of it so you can see the lights there, and we'll go through it and how we got here. So thanks for tuning in. Please give a like and subscribe, and let's get started. Okay, so this is the bottom of the B deck. Everything is finished on the upper side, pretty much. Added some people, and I'll show them later. But what I'm doing right now is starting the I-beams for the second class library entrance, which is actually on C deck. So what we're going to be doing, first we cut away the support beams that are there from the kit. Now these basically land right in here, so got to make the room in order to put these on, which that means that has to get cut too. So it's basically just prepping the kit deck to be able to accept this, and then what we're going to do is mark where our lighting is, and then we will paint, and then basically start, actually we'll bend first and then paint after we get the markings done for it. Now obviously I want to get this a little bit smoother to go here, but what we're going to do, I'm going to hit it with a sanding drum for a Dremel, just to smoothen that out and smoothen this out, just so our I-beams have a good solid straight spot to mount onto, which this is pretty good, honestly, but I think I'll get a little bit better result hitting it with the sanding. And you could also do this too and pretty much end up with the same result. Just be careful of your hand. Actually, this might work better than the sanding. So yeah, we're just going to carve it off here. Now, I'm going to use a different lighting than we used on the last video. It's essentially the same stuff, but it has actual wire to it instead of the metal. So I'll show them here in a minute. Okay. One thing I will say about the Trumpeter plastic, it is actually fairly soft. So doing this kind of work is actually not that difficult. It does trim pretty nicely. I've had model kits before where when you're trying to trim, it doesn't come out that nice, so that'll work. Alright, so now that essentially is going to fit. So we're going to measure about right here and I just want to go take some measurements from the hull and make sure that I'm going to come right back to that wall where that wall would have been, before I start marking out where my lights need to be. Because the other factor right now will be important on this. This will determine where I can put my screw holes too, because I obviously, to screw the deck down, can't put them here because I'm not drilling through this. So let me do some measuring and I'll be right back. Okay, so yes, that's going to come right back to that wall, and then the side that comes out to the end of over to the hull comes right up to the edge there as well. So I'm going to cut this out a minute. The sprue basically holding it onto this metal. And then we're going to mark out, we'll tape it down and then mark out where our lighting marks will be, because I want to determine how I'm going to get my wires there, whether I'm going to run them under the beam or next to the beam. I'll figure that out here once I kind of get this situated. Okay, so, whoa. Okay, so that will land essentially right there. Just like that. So just for marking purposes, I'm going to put this tape here to hold this for a minute. I got the idea anyway. I got the idea anyway. All right, so okay, so our wires that we're going to use, or I'm sorry, our lights that we're going to use are more like what we used on the poop deck. And I know there's also the fiber optic way of doing this, but I'm choosing to go this route just because I like them better. These wires are super thin, so I just want to kind of test them to see if they will fit under. Now, if you notice, they each have a resistor on them. I'm going to end up re-resistoring them so that I have 4 onto a piece. I just want to see if that is going to fit in there without causing issue. Yes, perfect. So I might just do a small little drill incision on those marking points, just so I have a little bit of recession to put the light bulb into. Obviously you don't want to drill through this because you have deck underneath it, or above it. And what my goal will be is just to kind of sink these in a little bit, not much, and then I'll paint them yellow, just like we did with the other ones, and that should give a pretty nice lighting effect to make it have that same yellow. That we have in all the rooms. Sorry, I'm just concentrating while I'm doing this. Now, generally, you would not have wanted to cut this piece off that I did, but I was trying to make sure that it needed to, where these lights needed to come, and I should have just did it from the with the sprue on it still, but I did not, so my mistake, I guess. So now I just want to try putting the light in here. And yep, that's going to fit pretty much perfect. I just need to glue it. So I can do that while this is paint, or while the paint will dry on that. I'm going to do the other side quick and get that prepped. But essentially, I'm going to just put the light right in here into the recession and glue it down, and then these wires will come over into here, and we'll end up putting a rail bar up here for a negative here shortly. I think I want to get the hole just a tiny bit bigger that I just drilled out, just so it has a little bit more room to kind of sink into. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and prep this side, finish prepping this side. I'll get the ceilings painted up, and then we'll start to get them ready to bend and install. There you go. You can see these holes are just a little bit bigger now. Excuse me. And they will fit better in there, just like that. So let me go ahead and start gluing these down, getting the ceilings painted up, and I will be back. Okay, so little lesson that I learned: do not cut off this piece right here, because that's going to be a real pain in the rear for later. So this one, obviously, I don't have to cut off, or I didn't cut off, so I'll be able to just kind of, I'll make do. I'll figure this out, but unfortunately, this one's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. So just wanted to call that out. I just painted the white on the ceiling here. Not a major deal to do, but you really probably should have some white in there before you put the I-beam on. So I just kind of wanted to mention that before I move on. So I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and get these marked up and drilled and finish getting my lights glued on. So be back. Okay, so this did not turn out exactly how I planned, but the good thing about that is I know what not to do on the next side, and this is the lower deck, so it will not be as obvious which is good. I got a lot of bleed through right here that I'm going to try to maybe put some putty into or whatever. I haven't decided yet, but essentially by breaking that part where I did early on really screwed me up later down the road. I don't know. It is what it is. It will work. It just is not exactly what I originally intended it to be. So the next side I think will come out quite a bit better. But yep, there was definitely some learning curve going into this one. So in any case, I think the next side I'll be able to teach it a little bit better. So I'll get this flipped around, and then I'll get my holes drilled out for my lighting, and then we'll go from there. One of the major things that I discovered about here was that I should not have tried to glue the wire down to the deck. That made it a whole lot harder, and it will slip under here okay. The problem then was that it lifted the panels here, which have created these light gaps. So what I'm trying to do now is fill them in a little bit, and then I want to paint over them with white, and hopefully that's going to kind of mask what I did. But you know, like I said, this is a lower deck, so I'm not nearly as worried about it as I would be with the upper decks, and hopefully this little adventure will help me in the future. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that right now, honestly. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip this around, and then we'll kind of pick up on this side doing what we're doing. So I'll be right back. Okay, first up, I already got these lights in. What I did was drilled out the hole so I could put my light in. Then what I've been doing, and this will work so much better than it did on the other side, like I said, learning curve. I'm bending it so it's about a 90. You can kind of see that. Then I'm dropping it into the hole. So that the wires are headed out back into the what will be second class staircase. So we get that in there. Then we're just taking a dip of glue over the top of it, which actually kind of makes it look like it has a lens over it. So that's working for me. And I'm just hitting it with a touch of accelerator to get it there quicker. And there we go. So now I have all my wires here. They are all going to go straight towards the back, and I'm not going to do anything with them hooking them up yet, because on that side I spent a whole bunch of time trying to figure out how to get the individual panels basically on, because I took it off the sprue before I should have. So this time I won't have to worry about that, and this is going to be my preferred method for the upper decks as we go too. So now this literally fits right over every single light like it's supposed to. So what we have to do before we can put this on, we need to bend up all of the I-beams, which is not hard. It's a lot easier on here than it was doing it individually. I just need to go grab a razor blade, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to show how I've been bending these, and obviously I'm using a razor blade, so if you follow this technique, just be mindful that you're dealing with a razor blade. But how I've been doing this is I slip it under on the far end up here, under and over, I guess is the best way to say it. So like that, so that I'm up here and right here. Then I just kind of hold my fingers right here and use it as a brake and just bend it forward, and there you go. It's super simple. I know you could use a photo etch bender, but actually I don't know if you could use a photo etch bender, because I don't know how you would get it in there. I mean, so far for Woody's stuff, I have not even gotten my photo etch bender out, because most of it is just bend by finger. But you can see that it is not difficult. And once you get going here, you can kind of get into a groove and just kind of go at it. The hardest part is just making sure you're over that lip before you start here. There we go. There's no real difficulty to it. Literally just get under and bend. So I'm going to finish doing that, and we'll be right back. So as I was going here, I started experimenting around. You actually don't have to get over that lip. Just literally get under it, and boom. Under it, and boom. So actually much easier than even I originally thought it was. So you can move along at a pretty quick clip by doing it that way. Just be careful, again, because you are dealing with a razor blade. But very, very simple. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to put our glue on. And what I want to do, I'm not that worried about the wires being visible, because we're going to go back through it with some white paint anyhow, to get the bottom or the side of the I-beam painted white. But what my main goal is just to get these so that they're going straight back. And I'll use some tape so it kind of holds them there temporarily. It'll go back to about there, more than likely. The hard part is you start getting all these other wires going around in here and everything just looks confusing, but you'll know what you got going on as you're doing it. Okay, so I cross those. There we go. So I want this one to go straight back. Like that. There we go. Finally. And I want this one, I can put that one under that piece of tape too. Straight back. Now the brass will then lay right down on top of these, and we should have minimal amounts of it popping up, and then we'll cut them to size once we get it on there, which again, this is all stuff that I didn't do on the other side, which is why I had the results that I had. So if you go this route, it does seem like it's working a whole lot better. And you could also channel into the plastic, I suppose, which I know that's how Ben did his on Midwest Model Shop, but he was also using fiber optics, so. What I like about doing it straight like this is I know that it's going to be right under the panel too, so it's not going to be in the middle of a cross beam like I had on the other side. The other side is a mess, I mean, honestly, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back and fix it. I'll play with it, but again, I just a lot of times once you set brass, it's pretty well set, so I just don't know if it's even worth trying to fix on a lower deck where you'll never see it. So more than likely it'll just end up staying as is, and I use it as a learning experience. A learning and teaching experience, because this way you won't make the same mistakes I make on your build. Okay, there we go. So now they're nice and flat here. So ideally, we want to just be able to drop that right down on there with our glue. And then we'll cut our sprue off, and that will be set. So then after that, all we have to do is hook up our wiring, and we are good to go. One other minor thing I learned on the other side is to watch your wires when you're cutting that off, because the wires are very thin and they don't take much to cut. So we're just going to put our glue on here. You don't have to go crazy with it, but you do need enough to kind of get it to set. And you want the wires to adhere well. Okay. So you gotta kind of work fast, but not too fast, if that makes sense. And we just drop it right down on. I see one panel, it's going to bother me, but I can fix it, so it's not going to be too big of a deal. Now, I also have found that kind of pushing it down with a toothpick has worked really well. This one here is the one that bothers me. It's stuck up right there, just a touch. So I'll have to play with that one. But if worse comes to worse, I'll just hit it with a little touch of putty and some paint, and we'll be fine. It is a far, far better result than what I had on the first side. I can tell you that already. Okay. Now, to get the little sprue part off, like I said, you got to be really cautious of the wiring. So I'm going to cut where wires aren't first, and hopefully going to be able to just kind of rock it back and forth a couple times and break it. Yep, it's going to work. Maybe. The bottom one's pretty easy. You can just kind of run right along the edge here, and they just pop right off. Except when you miss one. There we go. Okay. I can tell you they already look way more uniform than the other side does. So the new system worked. Okay, that one had a wire literally right under it, so uh-oh. That one needs a little bit more glue. So what we're gonna do for that is just kind of put some right along the back here. Push down with our toothpick, and just because I'm in a hurry. There. Oops, wrong knife. Okay, that one also does not have enough glue. All right, so next up, I like how it came out much better. So now we can undo our tape and then cut these down to size. So all I'm gonna do in that case is figure out where I'm gonna have my ground all coming together, which is obviously onto this. So I'm going to cut them about that length once I find my cutter. Well, that's weird. No, I'll use scissors for right now, and then off camera I'll fix it. So I'm going to want them to be about here. And these ones are all kind of in the same neighborhood, so I'll group them together. Oh, these wires, I think at the beginning, not the wires, but the lights at the beginning, I had said that I was putting them down to one resistor. That does not work on these particular lights, so they each have an individual resistor built in, but we're going to shorten the length of them also, so we'll have to cut them down and resolder them. Not a big deal, but just figured I'd mention it. Okay, so I can group my 3 negatives here together. Go, and then we're just going to solder them onto the rail. I guess I can actually do it over here because it naturally wants to land here. Just don't want to melt that positive there. Okay. So they are on. Now just for test purposes, we can see how it comes up for lighting before I shrink these down, because obviously I'm not keeping these because they're way too long. But we can kind of get an idea of what it will look like. There we go. So I have a little bit that I need to kind of hide with the paint, but all in all, I'll be okay with that. And I gotta hit yellow on top of them yet. So there's that. So let me take a break and get all this stuff kind of soldered together, and we'll be back. Okay, so I had some frustrations about how the shadowing was coming out here, and I was trying to figure out, not shadowing, but the lighting, because there's a lot of light bleed there, and I really wasn't happy with it. And then I considered even taking this back off and putting fiber optic in. Then I remembered I had this light deadening, it's almost like a putty. I don't know exactly what you call it, but it's made by Woodland Scenics for model railroads. So it's a real tiny gap that's here in between, but basically, if I put this in here and then I hit it with some white paint, you'll never ever see it, and it should fix my problem for the light bleed, because this is actually made for correcting light bleed on, like I said, model railroad, and this is, from what I can see so far, going to correct the issue. So I feel a whole lot better, because I was really kind of frustrated by it, and I know that you wouldn't really be able to see it that much, being it this is actually the ceiling for the C deck, but me just being me, I didn't like it. So this is going to work, as far as I can tell, and I have used this already before on the ship, back when I did the mini brass hull plating, so I know it works, and it will correct the issue that I got going on. Now you can see here I still have a little bit of light bleed right there, and that is because the light is not 100% centered where I would like it. So what I'm going to do for that is my foil tape, which this is not bleed throughable, so I'm going to cut about the length that I need on it, and then once I paint over it, you'll never know it's there. I just got to get the right width. It's a little bit thick. So we're talking a very thin piece that would be needed to do this in between those I-beams, but between the two things that I'm doing right now, I do believe this is going to get me where I need to get, and I will be happy. So this doesn't even need to be the full length either of that section. I think I can get away with about a centimeter long piece, and that's less paint coverage anyway, so plus less to concern myself with it falling off down the road from adhesive, losing its grip. But you got to get it on there straight or it will defeat the purpose. So and there we go. Got a little bit right there yet, which I could probably put just a little bit more of the foil on. Now, where I made a mistake, so I learned a lot on this section here that will help me in the future. I tried to run glue along the edge here, and I was going to glue that, or paint that to kind of conceal it. The problem is you can see through it still. So I needed something that's opaque, more like this foil tape and these light blockers, in order to correct this problem. And yep, there we go. This is working. So that essentially will give me what I need. Once I paint it white, you'll never know it's there, and that will block the light. So really excited about that, because like I said, I was considering even going back to fiber optic and just completely scrapping this whole section, not section, but this whole video that we just went through. But I really wanted the lights rather than fiber optics, so I'm glad we're gonna make this work. And hopefully this will help somebody else in the future. So anyway, I'm going to work on getting this finished up, and then I'll basically show it once it's done and pretty much wrap up this video. So we'll be back here shortly. Okay, so now you can see this side pretty much done with it, and I'm pretty happy with it. Got a tiny bit of bleed on this one, which I can fix up a little bit here, and then I gotta go back and revisit this, because obviously you can see how much bleed there is there in comparison to this. So I'm trying to, yeah, there, kind of got a shadow. So I have just a tiny bit right there. There will be a wall that will be there, but all in all, this should work. So I'll finish up the other side and then we'll wrap up this video. Okay, so that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. At the end of the day, it did not turn out perfect, but I learned a ton about what not to do and what to do, so that when I do the upper decks, I'm going to have much more success. So the good thing is this won't really be that visible, and it was a good learning experience. So hope this helps somebody out there, and we'll see you next time.